When I was 15 years old and still in high school, I was a victim of date rape, and that was a terrible experience that I went through. But after that time, my boyfriend and I had broken up, and I realized that I was pregnant. I went to Planned Parenthood to get a free pregnancy test, and they told me that I was pregnant, and they suggested that since I was so young and still in high school, that I needed to get an abortion. They didn't give me any other options. They only suggested abortion. They told me that my baby was just a blob of tissue, that it wasn't really a baby at that point. Being 15 years old and still in high school, never had even been to a gynecologist before. I didn't know anything about pregnancy or fetal development or anything. I was very afraid to tell my parents because of what happened to me. I didn't realize at the time that I was in high school that experience was date rape. I didn't understand. I just knew that what happened to me was wrong. And so I was just afraid and so ashamed. And when I told my ex-boyfriend that I was pregnant, he denied being the father, which deepened my shame. So I called my sister and told her, and my mother overheard me talking to my sister. And my sister was also recommending that I get an abortion. And she somehow talked my mom into it. I was the baby of 9 children. My parents raised 7 girls and 2 boys, and I was the baby. So my mother, she didn't understand anything about abortion, and somehow my sister talked her into it. Since I was so young, we were trying to keep it away from my father, who was an evangelist. I was afraid of telling him, afraid that maybe he would kick me out of the house or something. I really didn't know what to do. I didn't know that I had any other options other than abortion. My friends in high school also were pressuring me to get an abortion. One girl told me that she had one, and she said it was just no big deal, that girls do it all the time. So I went ahead with that. My sister took me, and we got the money from my ex-boyfriend, and he had gathered the money from all our friends in school, so everybody in school knew what was going on. I didn't want to face the shame of being pregnant in high school like so many girls I had seen, but he had told everybody anyway. When we were in the abortion clinic, I was called into a counseling session. My mother and my sister were not allowed into that counseling room. I was told at that time, the lady said, "You are so young and you are so small that this abortion could probably cause you to never be able to have children in the future." And I was just in shock at that time. I wasn't thinking about marriage or having kids or nothing, so it just didn't even faze me what she told me. But I do believe that if my mom and sister were in there hearing that they would have stopped me from having an abortion. So after that, they took me into this room. There was a nurse and a doctor later come in, and I don't think I was introduced to him. All I remember is that he was a man. The nurse was holding my hand, and they were giving me anesthesia that was not total anesthesia, because I could still hear and feel what was going on and hear all the sounds in the room. They actually had me focus on, above the bed, they had a baby mobile hanging up there, and they told me to focus on that. But all I could know is that as the abortion was taking place, I could hear this vacuum noise and feel my insides were just being ripped out. Before it started, I heard my mother's voice at the door asking, "Is my daughter in there?" And the lady told her, "Ma'am, you cannot come in here. You have to go back to the waiting room." So they did not even allow my mother in the room with this major operation I was having that nobody knew anything about. So after the abortion was over, I was in the recovery room, and I think they put me in a recliner and other girls in there, and we were all just kind of in shock. Some were screaming, some were crying. They gave us like some crackers and juice, and I knew that I was bleeding a lot. That's one thing I do remember. I hemorrhaged for quite a while after that abortion procedure. My mom and sister never told my dad. It was a taboo issue. We never discussed it ever again. I felt relief afterwards, but I was also emotionally numb. I turned away from my Christian upbringing. I started being more sexually promiscuous and doing a lot of drugs and doing a lot of drinking and skipping school. Things emotionally got worse for me. I ended up marrying a man that was very verbally and physically abusive. I was married to him for 18 years. During that time, I was never able to have children. As a result of that one abortion at age 15, instead of being able to have children, I had 5 miscarriages. And one of them, they were all very near-death experiences. And 3 of them were tubal pregnancies that required emergency surgery. And the last one that I had, I believe, was in 2004. My tube ruptured, and so I was bleeding internally, and they had to give me a blood transfusion during the surgery. And so I should not be here, but I'm glad that I am. It has been very traumatizing for me to go through life not being able to have children, and going to baby showers is very difficult, and seeing all my friends and relatives raise their kids, and it's been really hard. I was finally able to leave the abusive marriage, and I'm so glad that I'm delivered from that. And afterwards, when I realized continuing to have these miscarriages, I knew it must have had something to do with the abortion. And so I knew that I needed help. I also suffered from breast cancer as a result of the abortion. Studies show that abortion does raise your risk for breast cancer. I even had the genetic testing done, proving that I am not a carrier of the breast cancer gene. So I do believe strongly that the abortion caused me to have breast cancer. So I went through that trauma and treatment as well. During the years of my marriage, when I was having all these miscarriages, I realized that I needed help. So I did reach out to an abortion recovery group, and it was a wonderful support group. And during that time, I was able to memorialize my child that was lost through abortion. And we had a memorial service, and we were also able to name our babies. And so I do have a plaque with my baby's name on it at the National Memorial for the Unborn in Tennessee. And also they have a garden, and in that garden are bricks that are placed in memory of children that have been lost to miscarriage. And I did lose 5 children to miscarriage as well. So this is a replica of the years of the babies that I lost to miscarriage. And they're now in the arms of Jesus. And these baby shoes represent Darren Nicholas Knight, my son that was lost through abortion. And these things represent my children that were lost. So if anyone out there is considering abortion, I pray that you get all the information that you need. There are pregnancy centers available that will show you the truth about abortion and the damage that the procedures can do to you. like infertility was my experience, never able to have children. The trauma of the tubal pregnancies and the miscarriage, that the pain is indescribable. The abortion itself was very painful. Adoption is a loving option, and also parenting your child. There is help through the pregnancy centers that can help you with that, and the safe haven laws as well. If you just don't want to go through the adoption process and you have your baby leave it at a hospital or a fire station, there's no repercussions, and the state will raise your child. Thank you for listening to my story.